So I think we're all in agreement that this third and final season of The Bad Batch has been pretty great so far. And while I do think episode 12, Juggernaut, that just came out is possibly one of the weakest episodes, I think it sets the stage perfectly for the final 3 episodes in this final season of this show. So in this video, while I am going to recap some of the events that happen in episode 12 of The Bad Batch, I'm more going to be looking forward as to what's going to happen with all of these characters, because we know they're not in the sequel trilogy, we know that they're not in the original trilogy, we don't see anything with them, so what is going to happen to them in these final episodes? I'm going to get into all of that stuff, my theories with Omega being Force sensitive, and everything surrounding our Bad Batch characters. So hit subscribe, like the video, and at 1100 subs, I'm giving away the X-Men 200 copy, which features the trial of Magneto, which was actually present in the X-Men 97 show. With that out of the way, let's do a quick recap of episode 12. So basically all you need to know for this episode is at the very end, Omega finds all of the Force sensitive high M count children, and the Bad Batch also recruits Rampart, who was responsible for the destruction of Tapoka City on Kamino. Clearly the Empire had no more use for him and turned him into a slave worker after kind of using him as the fall guy for Kamino. And the whole goal of this is to find out where Tantus base is, which is, yes, kind of repetitive in terms of what we've seen in previous episodes, but I'm very excited for these last 3 episodes because this season has been great so far and I've heard good things about the people who've seen the rest. First, I want to talk about Clone X. This clone trooper has been given a lot of screen time in the past couple episodes, and there's plenty of theories regarding who this character is. Some, like myself, have suggested that this could be Commander Cody, while other people have theorized that this is actually a clone version of Crosshair, which there does seem to be some evidence in regards to the way Crosshair acts when talking about Tantus and the testing that he went through. Personally, I would love it if it was Commander Cody, that way we get a fight with Cody and Rex in the final couple episodes, but I could also see it being a clone of Crosshair, considering that's the whole idea of Tantus base in this whole season. I've also seen people theorize that this is a resurrected version of Tech. We know that Tech died in season 2 of The Bad Batch, and what better way to bring him back as an enemy of the team? We've been getting plenty references to Tech throughout this season, and I think it would be cool if we actually saw him as a bad guy and the Bad Batch have to stop him, but at the same time, I think that kind of undermines his death in season 2, so I don't know if I really want that. Next, I want to talk about Asajj Ventress, a character who has returned from the Clone Wars. We found out that she is still alive, and then she left. I personally don't think we're going to see any more of Asajj Ventress. She really just came in, had an episode with Omega, and it was great, but after that, she left. Same with Fennec Shand and all of the one-episode cameo characters. Maybe they all appear and help the clones out in the final episode titled The Cavalry Has Arrived, which hints at a big group coming together to save our clones. But if this doesn't happen, I definitely think we're going to be seeing more of Asajj Ventress, possibly in a different project. While Asajj Ventress will not be in the first season of Tales of the Empire, I do think a second season could explore her path after leaving the Sith, but also we could see a different show titled Tales of the Sith or something like Tales of the Bounty Hunter. The possibility of the animated shows branching off into different shows entirely is something we've seen already with Tales of the Jedi and The Bad Batch, and I know we all want more Star Wars animation. In regards to Omega, she is kind of the main character of this show now. This entire season, they've been playing around with the fact that Omega has a very high M count and could be Force sensitive. And why tease all of that if it's not true? I think we're going to see Omega tap into her Force potential, especially after the training she received from Asajj Ventress in the previous episodes, and the Empire is going to realize that they have a real problem on their hand with a Force sensitive clone. Now, looking to the even bigger picture, the grand scheme of Palpatine is to create a clone of himself that is Force sensitive. We know later down the line, due to the sequels and Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine does return, and this show seems to be answering that question of why and how he returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
With that being said, we know that the clone version of Palpatine that we see in that movie is just really a shell of who he once was. Yes, he becomes more powerful using the dyad of the Force between Rey and Ben Solo, but before that, he's basically a carcass just barely clinging on to life. So while we know that the Empire was somewhat successful with Project Necromancer, I think the Bad Batch stops it from being way worse than it was, or will be. Where does that leave our characters? Well, I don't think we're going to be getting out of this show without at least one of our Bad Batch members dying. And if I had to put my money on it, it's probably going to be Wrecker. Being the big, strong, yet lovable, kind-hearted character, it's just written kind of that he is going to possibly be the one who dies. I think Crosshair is also a character that could possibly bite the bullet with his redemptive arc over this entire season. Come to think of it, he's been one of the main focal points thus far. While this show is a spin-off of the very popular Star Wars The Clone Wars show, I do think that this show in particular particular the third season is strong enough to warrant another spin-off based on maybe Omega and Hunter or other characters. It does make me kind of sad that this show is over considering how good this third season has been. I really hope we get a lot of questions answered, and I hope they kind of lay the groundwork even more for the events that happen in the sequel trilogy. Obviously, the sequel trilogy is very controversial for people, and like how the Clone Wars sort of redeemed the prequels, I think the Bad Batch is kind of doing that for the sequels already, giving more explanation and more exposition as to how things got the way they were post-Empire and why Palpatine, returns.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
However, I do think this is the very first piece of the puzzle, considering that in The Mandalorian Season 3, we have the meeting of the Imperials discussing Project Necromancer. So yes, this is a concept that they're introducing in the Bad Batch, and we're getting a lot of information on it, but we know that it's still alive and well way down the line, making me think we're not done with these characters even though this is the end of the show. I think we're going to see another sacrifice with one of the members of the Bad Batch in the same vein that happened to Tech in Season 2, and I think even more than one person might bite the bullet. Obviously, Omega is a very important character, and her influence seems to go beyond this show. And I think in the series finale, we're going to see her use the Force and become a completely new, reborn character. Guys, let me know down below what you think about The Bad Batch Season 3 so far, and what your thoughts are and theories as to what could happen in these final 3 episodes. I'm very excited to see how this show ends. I've actually loved this season so far, more so than the first 2 seasons, and I really hope it finishes strong. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and I will see you all very, very soon.